The sky was burning. Crimson fire lit up the alien capital as enemy ships rained destruction from above. The ground shook like a living thing, groaning under the weight of war. In the center of the chaos stood the royal citadel, tall, silver, and proud, now breaking apart piece by piece. Inside, the alien king stood before a glowing map of his kingdom. His golden armor reflected the red light from outside. Every few seconds, a tremor ran through the floor. His generals shouted orders, their voices lost under the constant thunder of explosions. "Your Majesty," one guard gasped, entering the hall. "We've lost contact with the northern fleets. The human armies are closing in." The king clenched his fists. "And my daughter? Where is she?" No one answered at first. Then, slowly, the commander lowered his head. "Her ship was last seen near the western battlefield. We lost her signal minutes ago." The king froze. His heart stopped beating for a second. "She was supposed to be in the evacuation convoy," he whispered. The commander didn't reply. His silence said everything. Outside, far away from the burning city, a small escape craft spiraled out of control. Inside it, the princess fought with the controls. Sparks burst from the panels. Smoke filled the air. Her silver eyes reflected the flames. She whispered a single word, "Father." The ship struck the ground with a deafening crash. Everything went black. Hours later, the battlefield was silent. The war had moved on, leaving only broken machines and dead soldiers scattered under the blood-red sky. A human soldier, wounded and covered in dust, crawled out from behind a wrecked tank. His name was Jack Rains, a pilot who had been shot down during the last wave. His arm was bleeding, his helmet cracked, but he was alive. He looked around. Nothing but ruins. The air smelled of metal and smoke. The horizon glowed faintly with distant fires. He tapped his broken comm device, but it made only static. No rescue, no signal. Jack began to walk. Every step echoed in the emptiness. The silence was heavy, almost unreal. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw something, a faint blue light blinking in the distance. He turned toward it. As he came closer, he saw the wreck of a small alien craft, half buried in sand. The metal was twisted, smoke still rising. The blue light came from inside, maybe a distress beacon. He climbed through the wreckage, coughing through the smoke. "Hello? Is anyone here?" No answer. Then he heard it, a weak sound, like someone breathing. Jack pulled aside a broken panel and froze. Lying on the floor was a young woman in dark silver armor. Her skin glowed faintly, almost like moonlight. Her hair, pale as starlight, was spread across the floor. A strange, royal symbol shone on her chest plate. He pointed his weapon instinctively. She looked alien, not human, enemy. But then she opened her eyes. For a second, he saw fear, then pain. She tried to speak, but her voice cracked. "Don't shoot. I'm not your enemy." Jack hesitated. The war had taught him not to trust anyone, especially not their kind. But something in her voice was different. Not hate, not threat, something fragile. He lowered his weapon slightly. "Who are you?" She looked at him, struggling to sit up. "I don't remember. My ship, it crashed." He noticed a wound on her arm, glowing faintly blue. He didn't know if it was blood or energy, but she was clearly dying. Jack sighed. "Stay still. You'll bleed out." He tore a piece of cloth from his uniform and wrapped her arm. As he worked, she watched him silently, confused, cautious, but thankful. After a long silence, she whispered, "Why are you helping me? I am your enemy." Jack shrugged. "You're just a person bleeding out. That's all I see right now." Night fell quickly. The two survivors built a small fire in the shadow of the wreck. The flames flickered on the twisted metal, painting their faces in orange light. Jack sat sharpening a knife, while the alien girl stared at the stars. "Those stars," she said softly, "they were once our home. My people believed we came from them." He didn't answer. She turned to him. "Do humans believe in the stars too?" Jack smirked faintly. "We used to, before the war." Silence again. The wind carried the sound of distant thunder. Not weather, but explosions far away. The war was still raging somewhere out there. Finally, she spoke again, her voice barely a whisper. "What do you call yourself?" "Jack," he said. "Captain Jack Rains." "And you?" She hesitated. Her eyes dimmed for a second, like she was searching for something in her memory. Then, slowly, she said, "My name is Elira." The name sounded ancient and royal. Jack didn't realize who she truly was, the lost princess of the Orleans Empire, daughter of the alien king himself. To him, she was just another survivor. As the fire burned lower, Elira looked into the flames. A single tear rolled down her cheek. In the distance, thunder rolled again, louder this time. Jack turned his head sharply. He saw lights on the horizon, moving fast. Dropships. He grabbed his rifle. "Stay down." Elira looked at the lights and whispered, her voice trembling. "They are not human ships." Jack's eyes widened. The firelight flickered on their faces as the shadows of alien soldiers appeared over the hills. To be continued. The night sky trembled with red lights. Jack crouched behind the wreckage, rifle in hand, eyes locked on the hills. The sound of engines grew louder, deep, heavy, and metallic. Elira's voice was barely a whisper. "They are my father's soldiers, the Royal Guard." Jack frowned. "Your father's? Then why are you scared?" She didn't answer. Her pale eyes stared into the darkness, reflecting fire. "Because if they find me, they will kill you. And maybe me too." Before Jack could ask more, a beam of white light sliced through the fog, a search drone. It swept over the wreck, humming low like a predator. Jack pulled Elira down. The beam passed inches from her face. They waited, heartbeats pounding in silence. Then the drone moved on. Jack whispered, "We have to move. Now." They slipped through the broken field, stepping over twisted metal and fallen armor. The air smelled of burnt fuel. In the distance, the searchlights kept sweeping the horizon. Elira's wound still glowed faintly blue. Jack noticed but said nothing. He didn't understand what kind of blood that was, and he wasn't sure he wanted to. They reached a ridge. Below it lay an empty valley, quiet, except for the whisper of wind through the rocks. They stopped to rest. Elira sat down, breathing heavily. "Humans destroyed our outer moons," she said softly. "Why?" Jack wiped dirt from his face. "We were told your people attacked first." She looked at him with disbelief. "That's the same lie my people believe, that humans struck first." Both fell silent. The war had fed them different stories. Neither knew the truth. As the first light of dawn touched the battlefield, they found an old outpost half buried in dust. It was alien-built, strange symbols glowing faintly on the doors. Jack forced it open, and they slipped inside. Inside was cold, quiet, and half-destroyed. But there was food rations, a power cell, and old tech still working. Jack smiled for the first time. "Looks like we got lucky." Elira ran her fingers along the walls. The panels glowed brighter under her touch. "This place knows me," she whispered. Jack watched her closely. "What do you mean?" She didn't reply. Instead, she touched a console, and suddenly a hologram flickered to life, a map of nearby systems, and an image of a royal crest glowing above it. Jack realized then that she wasn't just another alien soldier. The way the system reacted to her, the respect in the machine's code, she was someone important. "You said your father's soldiers would kill you," Jack said. "Why?" She lowered her head. "Because they think I ran away, that I abandoned my army. They believe I am a disgrace. And the truth, I was ordered to retreat, but my pilot disobeyed. He betrayed me." She looked away, her voice shaking. "My shuttle was shot down by my own people." Jack stared at her in disbelief. "Your people tried to kill you." She nodded. "Someone wanted me gone. Maybe even my father." Hours later, they sat by the soft blue light of the power core, eating quietly. Jack's arm was still bleeding under his bandage, but he hid the pain. Elira studied him, the human who had saved her, even though she was his enemy. "You're different from the others," she said. Jack chuckled dryly. "People keep telling me that." Then the console beeped, a blinking red signal. Jack frowned and moved closer. It was a distress call in human language. This is Lieutenant Hayes of the 4th Division. Any survivors? Respond. We're regrouping near Sector 9. Jack's face lit up. That's my unit. They're alive. He started packing his gear. We can get out of here. But Elira stood still. Her eyes were wide. If they find me, they will kill me. They'll never let you protect me. He paused. She was right. No human command would believe he saved an alien. They'd call him a traitor. Jack looked at the transmission again, then at her. We'll find another way, he said quietly. They left the outpost before sunrise. The desert stretched endlessly, pale and silent. In the far distance, a storm brewed, dark clouds glowing with electric light. As they walked, Elira stumbled. Jack caught her arm. Her skin felt warm, like energy pulsing beneath it. He looked at her, really looked, and saw exhaustion, pain, and pride. You need rest, he said. I can't, she replied. They'll find us soon. My people track everything, even breath. Jack smiled faintly. Then we'll make it hard for them. He led her toward the canyon ahead, where shadows were deep and the wind howled through broken rock towers. It was a perfect hiding place. They made camp in a cave as the storm arrived. Lightning flashed outside, blue and violent. Elira sat near the entrance, watching the storm. When I was young, she said, my father told me thunder was a voice of the gods, that they spoke to kings in storms. Jack leaned against the wall. What are they saying now? She gave a faint smile. That the gods are angry. A sudden blast shook the cave. Rocks fell from the ceiling. Jack jumped to his feet, grabbing his weapon. Outside, engines roared. Not alien this time, but human. Dropships. Elira's eyes widened. Your soldiers found us. Before they could move, floodlights poured into the cave. Human soldiers shouted commands. Jack stepped forward, waving his hands. Don't shoot. Friendly. But when they saw Elira beside him, their faces turned cold. Say, step away from the alien, one of them barked. Now! Jack stood his ground. She's not a threat. The officer raised his weapon. That's an order, Captain. Step away. Elira reached for his arm. Jack, don't. Gunfire exploded. Smoke filled the cave. Jack shielded Elira, dragging her deeper inside. Bullets sparked off the walls. He returned fire, shouting, Hold your fire. She's with me. No one listened. Then, suddenly, a loud hum filled the air. Alien drones descended from the storm above, firing blue energy bolts. The humans scattered, screaming. Jack pulled Elira toward the back exit. We need to move. She looked back. The drones were haze, marked with a royal crest. They found me, she whispered. My father's army. The ground shook as a drone clashed with human troops outside. Jack and Elira ran into the darkness, chased by two armies that wanted them both dead. The world outside burned with blue and red light. Human gunfire cracked against alien energy beams. The air was thick with smoke and dust. Jack ran through it, half dragging Elira behind him, their shadows flickering in the chaos. Explosions shook the ground. Alien drones dived overhead, their plasma bolts cutting through human soldiers like lightning. The storm above flashed, echoing their screams. Jack stopped behind a rock, catching his breath. We can't stay here, he said. They'll tear each other apart. Elira looked at the battlefield, humans and aliens killing each other without even knowing why. Her face was pale, her silver armor dented and cracked. This is madness, she whispered. Both sides fighting for nothing. Welcome to war, Jack said bitterly. He checked his rifle, only 2 shots left. Then a shout came from behind them. Captain Rains, drop your weapon. Jack turned. His own squad, dirty, blooded, and furious, stood there, weapons aimed at him. Their leader, Lieutenant Hayes, stepped forward. You've got a lot of explaining to do. Captain, why are you protecting an alien? She's not a threat, Jack said. She saved my life. Hayes scoffed. You expect me to believe that? You've gone rogue. The command's been calling you a deserter. Before Jack could answer, a plasma bolt struck the ground between them, throwing everyone off balance. The alien drones had found their position. "Get down!" Jack shouted. Energy fire ripped through the rocks. Hazy's soldiers scattered for cover. One man screamed as a bolt hit his armor. Jack grabbed Elira and ran toward a nearby trench. "Jack!" she shouted. "They're aiming for your people." "I noticed," he yelled back, diving behind cover as another explosion sent debris flying. For a moment, everything was chaos. Blue and red lights flashed through the dust. Jack leaned out and fired his last 2 shots at the drones. Both missed. He cursed under his breath. Then Elira stood, raising her hand. The air around her shimmered, and suddenly one of the drones stopped firing. It turned midday, glowing brighter, and then shot down another drone beside it. Jack stayed in shock. "What did you just do?" "I told it to stop," she said, voice trembling. "It still recognizes me." Jack realized then she wasn't just a soldier or survivor. She had control over alien technology itself. She was something more. The drone stopped firing for a few seconds, as if confused. Elira's eyes glowed faintly blue. "We have to leave now. They'll reprogram soon." They ran through the trenches as explosions erupted around them. Behind them, humans shouted orders and aliens fired blindly through the smoke. Neither side could see clearly who they were fighting anymore. Jack and Elira reached a narrow cave on the far side of the valley and slipped inside. The walls shimmered with ancient alien symbols, glowing faintly in the darkness. "Safe, for now." Jack leaned against the wall, breathing hard. "You want to tell me what that was back there? You just turned one of those killer drones into your pet." Elira looked away. "I didn't want you to see that. My people built those machines to serve our royal bloodline. They obey anyone with the royal code." Jack frowned. "Royal bloodline? You mean?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, I am the daughter of the alien king." Silence filled the cave. Only the distant thunder broke it. Jack stared at her, speechless. He remembered her strength, her strange control, her fear of being found. It all made sense now. "So, I've been running across a war zone with an alien princess," he muttered. "No wonder everyone wants to kill us." She didn't smile. Her eyes were sad. "If my people discover I survived, they'll take me back. They'll use me to keep the war going." Jack looked confused. "Why would your own people do that?" "Because peace means losing power," she said quietly. "And power is all they care about." A distant boom echoed from outside. Dust fell from the cave ceiling. The battle hadn't stopped. It was getting closer again. Elira turned toward the exit. "We can't stay here long. My father scout will find this place soon." Jack nodded. "Then we keep moving." But first, he tore off a small patch from his uniform and handed it to her. It bore the human insignia of the 4th Division. "Take it. If we're found, maybe they'll think you're with me." Elira looked at it, then smiled faintly. "And if your soldiers see me wearing it, they'll shoot faster." Jack chuckled. "You're probably right." For a brief moment, despite the war outside, they both laughed, a small, tired laugh that didn't last long. They left the cave at night. The valley was quiet again, the storm clouds drifting away. The moons above painted the land in silver light. They walked side by side, enemies by birth, allies by choice. After an hour, Elira stopped. "Look," she said softly. Far in the distance, a faint blue signal blinked on the horizon. It wasn't from either army. The pattern was too slow, too old. Jack raised the scope. "That's a distress beacon, pre-war tech. Could be an old transport or base." "It could also be a trap," Elira said. "Probably," he replied, "but it's the only light out there." They started toward it, their shadows long under the moonlight. Halfway there, Jack suddenly froze. The ground beneath them was covered in strange markings, glowing faintly, just like the cave walls. Elira knelt, touching one of the symbols. Her expression changed. "This isn't a human signal," she whispered. "It's one of ours, from before the war." "What does it say?" Jack asked. She looked up at him, eyes wide with disbelief. "It says, 'The king is alive.'" Jack's pulse quickened. "Your father—" She nodded slowly. "If this message is true, He's not waiting for peace. He's preparing for something worse. Behind them, far away, the fires of war still burned, red and blue, human and alien. But ahead of them, a new truth was waiting, one that could end both empires. The chamber glowed with golden light. Jack stood tense, his rifle steady, eyes locked on the shimmering figure inside the crystal sphere. The shape of the alien king stared back, tall, proud, his armor dark like obsidian. His voice echoed softly, but every word carried weight. "My daughter, you've returned at last." Elira stepped forward slowly. "Father, how are you alive? They said you fell during the siege." The king's image flickered faintly. "I did not fall, my child. I survived, and I waited. I have watched everything from here, the lies, the betrayal, the weakness of our kind." Jack kept his weapon low but ready. Something about the king's voice felt wrong, too calm, too measured. "He's not really alive, is he?" Jack asked quietly. Elira shook her head. "Not fully. He's projecting his mind through the core. His real body must be elsewhere." The king's gaze turned toward Jack. His eyes, glowing gold, narrowed slightly. "And you, human, you stand beside my bloodline as if you are her equal." Jack straightened. "I saved her life." "And for that," the king said coldly, "you should have died." The air trembled. Energy rippled through the room. A sharp hum filled the air. Jack stumbled back, the rifle buzzing in his hands. The king's image flared brighter, voice like thunder. "Humans are destroyers. You burn every world you touch. You murdered my people, my soldiers, my family." "Stop!" Elira shouted. "That's not true. We've seen proof. The war was built on lies." The king's eyes blazed. "Lies told by weaklings who fear truth. The humans struck first. I saw the reports." "Reports written by your council," Elira said bitterly. "The same men who betrayed me." He paused. For a second, the energy dimmed. "You speak of betrayal, yet you stand with our enemy. You shame your blood." Elira took a deep breath. "If ending this war means shame, then I'll carry it. I'm tired of seeing both sides burn." Jack looked at her. Her voice was trembling, but her eyes were strong. The king watched her in silence. Then, slowly, he smiled. "You always had your mother's heart," he said softly. "Too gentle for a crown." His tone shifted, darker, colder. But hearts do not win wars. The crystal sphere pulsed again, and part of the floor opened beneath them. The sound of machinery echoed from below. Gears toned, metal groaned, and a vast chamber unfolded, filled with massive silver engines and weapon cores glowing with red light. Jack stared down at it. "What is that?" The king's voice filled the room. "The Judgment Core, my final creation. When awakened, it will unleash a wave of light strong enough to burn every human city, every colony, every ship." Elira stepped back, horrified. "You're going to destroy them all." "No," the king said calmly. "I am going to cleanse this galaxy. Only the orderlies will remain." Jack shouted, "You'll kill billions of innocent people." The king's gaze didn't waver. Innocence is a lie the weak tell themselves. Survival is truth. Elira's heart pounded. "Father, please, this isn't what Mother would have wanted." At that name, the king's face hardened. "Do not speak of her. She believed in peace, and it got her killed." He turned away, the light around him dimming. "I will not make a mistake." Elira felt her chest tighten. The father she had loved, the man she had once idolized, was gone. In his place stood a ghost blinded by revenge. Jack looked at her. "We have to stop him." Her voice broke. "He's my father, and is going to kill everyone," Jack said, "including you." They moved closer to the main console, trying to find a way to shut down the core. The screens glowed with alien script. Elira tried to override the system, her hands shaking. The control is locked. He's using his own life force as a power source. Jack frowned. "Meaning?" "If I break it," she said, "he dies." Jack hesitated only a second. "Then we don't have a choice." But before she could act, a sharp sound echoed behind them. metal footsteps. From the shadows of the chamber emerged armored alien soldiers, their eyes burning blue. The king's guards. Take them alive, the king commanded. Bring my daughter home. Elira's eyes widened. Jack! He fired instantly, the blast lighting up the room. The soldiers returned fire, their weapons humming with plasma. Sparks flew. Elira dug behind the console, trying to shield the controls. Jack shouted over the noise. We're outnumbered. Elira pressed a hand on the panel. Cover me. The console glowed brighter. Alarms blared through the chamber. The entire fortress began to shake. The king's voice thundered. What are you doing? Elira shouted back, ending this. The light from the core turned red, pulsing faster and faster. Jack grabbed her arm. We have to go, now. They ran toward the exit as explosions tore through the walls. The soldiers tried to stop them, but the collapsing ceiling buried most of them in fire. They reached the pod outside just as the ground split open. The ancient fortress was collapsing into itself, glowing like a dying star. Jack jumped into the pilot's seat. Hold on. The pod launched into the air, flames chasing behind. Through the glass, Elira looked back. The place where her father's shadow had lived for so long was now gone. Or so she thought. As the pod climbed higher into the clouds, Jack exhaled shakily. Tell me that thing's destroyed. Elira didn't answer right away. Her hands trembled slightly. The core was disabled, but the data could still survive somewhere. He might have transferred his mind. Jack looked at her. You mean it's still out there? She nodded slowly. If he is, he'll rebuild. And this time, he won't stop until the galaxy burns. Jack tightened his grip on the controls. Then we'll find him first. Elira turned to look out the window, her reflection glowing faintly against the stars. He wanted to cleanse the galaxy, she said softly. But maybe this galaxy still is something worth saving. The stars shimmered around them as their small pod disappeared into the dark void. Space was quiet again. The stars stretched endlessly outside the small pod, glowing against the dark void. Jack sat in the pilot's seat, eyes heavy from exhaustion. It had been 3 days since they escaped the Forbidden Planet. 3 days since Elira destroyed the fortress, and her father. Also they hoped. Elira sat beside him, staring silently at the faint hologram on her wrist device. The data they had taken from the king's vault played in a soft blue glow, maps, coordinates, and fragments of the king's final code. Jack broke the silence. You've been staring at that thing for hours. I'm searching for a signal, she said quietly. If my father's mind survived, there will be a trace somewhere. Jack leaned back. You think he uploaded himself? She nodded. He always planned for death. For him, dying was just another form of survival. Jack rubbed his face. Well, that's comforting. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Only the low hum of the pod filled the air. Then Elira whispered, I thought I destroyed him. I thought it was over. Jack looked at her. Her silver hair shimmered faintly under the console light, but her face was pale. You did what you had to do, he said. If you hadn't, billions would have died. She looked up, her eyes sad but determined. And yet, I still feel like I lost something, not just my father, but a part of who I was. Far away, deep in the ruins of the Forbidden Planet, a faint glow pulsed in the darkness. Fragments of the shattered core floated in zero gravity, flickering with dying energy. Then, slowly, one of them came alive. Streams of golden data connected, weaving together like veins of light. A voice whispered through the static, My daughter, you cannot destroy me. The core fragments drifted toward each other, forming a new shape, small, compact, but alive. The king's consciousness had survived, and now he was awake. The war is not over, he said softly. It has only just begun. Back on the pod, Elira suddenly gasped. I found something. Jack leaned forward. What is it? She enlarged the hologram. A red symbol pulsed faintly on the edge of the map, deep within a sector long abandoned after the war. That signal, it's using royal encryption. My father's code. Jack's jaw tightened. Then is alive. I don't know, she said. But if it's him, His rebuilding, gathering the remnants of the old empire. Jack glanced at the nav screen. That sector's restricted. No colonies, no patrols. Perfect hiding spot. Elira looked at him. We need to go there. He frowned. You sure about that? Last time we followed your father's trail, half a planet tried to kill us. I'm sure, she said firmly. If he's truly alive, we can't give him time to rise again. Jack sighed and adjusted the controls. All right, princess. But next time, I'm picking the vacation spot. Elira smiled faintly. Deal. Hours later, the pod exited hyperspace near a dying star. The light was dim and red, surrounded by debris and ancient ships frozen in orbit. The place looked like a graveyard of two civilizations, human and alien alike. Jack squinted. This place gives me chills. Stay alert, Elira said. Her scanner beeped softly. There's something ahead, an energy source. They followed the signal through the wreckage. Soon, a massive structure appeared, a floating station made from broken ships fused together. Faint blue lights glowed from within. Jack whistled. That's not a base. That's a fortress made of corpses. Elira stayed in shock. Those are Aureli's warships. My father's fleet. As they approached, the comms crackled. A distorted voice came through, deep, cold, and familiar. You should not have come here, my daughter. Jack froze. Oh, no. The voice continued. You destroyed my body, but my mind endured. You and the human will witness my rebirth. Elira whispered, Father. The station's lights flared bright. Energy beams shot toward their pod. Jack pulled the controls hard, barely avoiding the blasts. He's got auto defenses. We need to disable them. Elira shouted. Jack gritted his teeth. Got any more royal tricks? She placed her hand on the console. Her veins glowed faint blue, connecting her neural link to the pod system. I'll override the fortress link. Jack stared. That's dangerous. Everything is dangerous, she said, eyes closed. Just keep us alive. The pod darted between burning wrecks, lasers cutting through the dark. Jack maneuvered fast, dodging debris. Sparks flew inside the cockpit as energy bolts grazed their hull. I hope you're fast, princess. Almost whispering, Elira replied, Almost there. Inside the fortress, the king's hologram flickered in multiple chambers, controlling turrets, drones, and ship engines. You cannot stop what has already begun. Elira's device beeped sharply. Got it. She slammed her hand on the console. The pod sent a massive pulse of blue energy toward the fortress. The defenses flickered, lights dying one by one. The fortress went silent. Jack looked around. You did it. She nodded, breathing heavily. For now. Then let's land and finish this. They landed near one of the open docking bays. The interior of the fortress was dark, lit only by faint orange glow from broken systems. Jack stepped out first, weapon raised. Elira followed, scanning the surroundings. The halls were lined with alien statues, warriors, kings, and scholars, all symbols of forgotten empire. But now, they were covered in dust. Jack muttered, creepy. Suddenly, a light flickered ahead. The king's hologram appeared again, larger than before, eyes burning gold. You cannot kill a ghost. Elira stepped forward. Father, listen to me. No, the king thundered. You betrayed your kind. You brought a human into our sacred halls. You think you can undo what I began. Jack raised his weapon. We can try. The king smiled darkly. Then you will both die here. The walls began to shift. Machines came alive, drones emerging from the shadows, weapons charging. The fortress was waking up again. Elira's eyes glowed brighter. Jack, run! He shook his head. Not this time. They stood side by side as a machine surrounded them, blue light reflecting off the walls. The odds were impossible, but neither moved. Elira whispered, If we fall here, at least we fall together. Jack smirked, not planning on falling. He pulled the trigger. The battle began. The corridor exploded with light. Jack's plasma rifle roared, burning through the first line of drones. Metal burst and scattered like sparks in a storm. Elira's eyes glowed silver as she raised a hand, sending a pulse of blue energy down the hall. The machines froze, their circuits melting under her power. Smoke filled the air. The fortress trembled. "Keep moving!" Jack shouted. Elira nodded, her breathing sharp. Every use of her power drained her faster, but she didn't stop. They pushed forward through the maze of broken metal and glowing panels. Behind them, the king's voice echoed through the walls, calm, almost amused. "You fight with passion, my daughter, but passion without order is chaos. You learn nothing from me." Elira glared at the nearest speaker. "I learned to think for myself." "And that," the king replied, "is your greatest weakness." The floor beneath them shifted. Massive panels slid open, revealing a deep shaft of rotating engines. A bridge extended slowly, then retracted halfway, splitting their path. Jack looked down. "That's a long way to fall." "We can jump it," Elira said quickly. "You first, princess." She took 2 steps back, sprinted, and leapt. Light burst from her boots as she glided across, landing hard on the other side. Jack followed, barely catching the ledge with one hand. Sparks flew as his gloves scraped metal. Elira grabbed his wrist and pulled him up. He gave a breathless laugh. "Remind me to skip leg day for the rest of my life." "Stay focused," she said, smiling faintly despite herself. They entered a vast circular chamber, the core of the fortress. Dozens of glowing cables hung from the ceiling, connecting to a towering structure in the center. Inside that structure was a swirling mass of golden light, data streams twisting like storm clouds. Jack squinted. "That's him, isn't it?" Elira nodded slowly. "His mind. The real him." The king's hologram appeared again, rising from the core like a ghost. His form flickered between armor and flame. "You cannot destroy what is already eternal." Jack raised his rifle. "Wanna bet?" Before he could fire, the hologram spread both hands. Energy surged through the floor, throwing Jack across the chamber. Elira screamed, rushing to him, but the king's voice thundered again. "You were born to rule, Elira, not to crawl beside this human. You could have led the stars." She looked up, furious. "And you could have saved them. Instead, you built weapons." "Because peace is a lie," he said coldly. "Power is the only truth." Jack pushed himself up, coughing. "Funny. For someone obsessed with power, you sure talk a lot." The king's eyes turned toward him, burning bright gold. "You are nothing. A parasite who clings to my child's mercy." Jack smirked. "Maybe, but at least I earned her trust." He fired again. The blast pierced through the hologram, hitting the core behind it. The room shook violently. Sparks rained from above. "Enough!" the king roared. The cables tore free, whipping through the air like serpents. Jack dodged one, barely missing its strike. Elira raised her hands, forming a shield of blue energy around them. "Jack!" she shouted. "If we destroy the power conduits, the core will collapse." "On it." They split up. Jack sprinted toward the nearest terminal, firing at the cables trying to grab him. Elira channeled her power into the second conduit, her eyes blazing. The ground cracked beneath her as energy overloaded the system. The fortress began to scream. Alarms blared, metal shrieked, and the king's image started to flicker. "You cannot erase me. I am your blood." Elira shouted back, "You're my past." She pressed both palms to the ground. A blinding surge of blue light exploded outward. The cables shattered. The golden core began to collapse. Data streams broke apart like shattered glass. The king's voice grew desperate now, echoing in fragments. "If I die, you die with me. My power is inside you." "I'll take that risk," she whispered. Jack ran back to her, grabbing her arm. "It's going to blow. We have to go." She hesitated for a second, looking up at the core, watching the last image of her father's face dissolve into light. Then she nodded. "Let's finish this." They sprinted through the collapsing corridors. Fire and debris fell around them. Jack dragged Elira through the narrow passages as the fortress began to implode. The walls folded inward, engines exploding one after another. Jack yelled, We're not gonna make it. Elira pointed ahead, a hangar bay with a small escape shuttle flickering to life. There! They jumped inside, slamming the hatch shut just as a wave of fire rolled through the hole. Jack hit the ignition. The shuttle shot out into space, engine screaming. Behind them, the fortress crumbled. The entire structure folded in on itself, forming a collapsing sphere of light, then vanished into darkness. Jack leaned back, gasping. Tell me that's over. Elira stayed out the viewport. The wreckage drifted silently among the stars. It's over, she said softly. He's gone. Jack smiled tiredly. Good, because I'm never doing that again. She turned to him, eyes filled with both relief and sorrow. You would have made a terrible soldier in my world. He chuckled. Yeah, but I'm a decent survivor. They both laughed quietly. For the first time in a long while, there was peace. But as the wreckage floated, a faint glimmer of gold flickered within one of the shattered cores, a tiny spark of data, pulsing slowly like a heartbeat. Far away, beyond the ruins, a signal transmitted through the void. The stars were silent again. Jack and Elira floated through deep space, their small shuttle gliding toward the nearest human station. The war was over, the fortress destroyed, and the ghost of the king finally gone. At least, that's what they wanted to believe. Jack checked the scanners. No signals, no pursuit. Looks like we finally caught a break. Elira didn't answer right away. She sat quietly in the co-pilot's seat, her fingers tracing the faint cracks in her wrist device, the same one that once linked her to her father's technology. Its glow was fading, but not completely. Jack noticed. You okay? She nodded slowly. Yes, but something feels wrong. The silence, it's too complete. Jack smirked. You mean peaceful? That's usually a good thing. Elira looked at him, eyes distant. Not after everything we've seen. Hours passed. The stars drifted by like ghosts. Jack finally leaned back, exhaustion pulling at him. You should rest, princess. You've earned it. She smiled faintly. You always call me that. It fits, he said. Even out here, you still carry yourself like one. Elira's voice softened. Maybe, but I'd rather just be Elira now. He nodded. Then Elira it is. For a few precious minutes, the galaxy was quiet. Then the alarms blared. The console flashed red. A coded transmission was incoming, encrypted with royal frequency. Elira's blood ran cold. That can't be. Jack leaned forward. Don't tell me. She opened the signal. The hologram that appeared was faint, distorted, but unmistakable. A golden outline of a face, her father's. My daughter, the voice echoed weakly. You cannot run from what you are. Jack slammed the console. He's dead. We saw him die. Elira whispered. It's not his body, it's a data echo. He must have uploaded fragments of his mind before the fortress collapsed. The hologram flickered again, the king's tone soft yet haunting. The war may end, but balance demands sacrifice. If I cannot rule, then neither shall humanity nor Orleans. Jack frowned. What does that mean? Elira's screen filled with coordinates, a distant system, near the border of both their worlds. A timer appeared beside it. He planted a failsafe, she said in shock. A doomsday pulse. When that timer reaches 0, both our worlds will burn. Jack cursed under his breath. How long do we have? 7 hours. He slammed the controls into hyperspeed. Then we're not dying today. They raced through space, the shuttle shaking violently as it pushed past safe limits. The engine screamed, the metal groaned, but Jack didn't slow down. Elira kept working on her wrist device. The failsafe is protected by multiple encryption layers, alien and human tech mixed. He must have merged both systems before the fortress fell. Jack muttered. Guess he really wanted to make sure nobody turned it off. They dropped out of hyperspace near a dying blue star. Around it floated a massive machine, an orbital weapon the size of a small moon. Its surface pulsed with golden energy. Jack stared. That's it. Elira nodded grimly. The Judgment Core. The last part of him. They landed near one of the access tunnels. The interior was eerily familiar, the same glowing walls, the same hum of power. It was like walking inside her father's mind. Jack followed close behind. So how do we stop this thing? Elira pulled up the schematics. We can't destroy it. It's too big. But if we reach the central processor, I can override the pulse using his DNA signature. Jack frowned. You mean you will have to connect to him again? She nodded quietly. Yes. He stepped in front of her. No way. You barely survived the last link. If I don't, she said, billions die. Jack's jaw tightened. Then I'm going with you. She looked at him, sadness and gratitude mixing in her eyes. You don't have to. I know, he said, but I will. They reached the central chamber. The golden core loomed before them, swirling like a miniature sun. Streams of light flowed through the air like veins. Elira stepped forward and pressed her palm to the console. The system reacted instantly. The light surrounding her brightened, wrapping around her body. The king's voice echoed again, stronger now, as if the machine itself spoke. You would destroy your own blood to save those who despise us. Elira's voice shook. You left me no choice. Then you are no daughter of mine. The light flared violently. Jack ran forward, grabbing her shoulder. Stay with me, Elira. Her voice grew faint. Almost there. The console overloaded, sparks flying. Jack covered her, shielding her from the explosion. The chamber filled with blinding light. Then silence. When the smoke cleared, the golden core was dimming. The energy streams had stopped. The timer on Elira's wrist read midnight. Deactivated. She collapsed, barely breathing. Jack caught her, lowering her gently to the ground. It's over, he whispered. You did it. Her eyes fluttered open weakly. Did we save them? He smiled. Yeah, both of them. Elira looked at him for a long moment, then smiled faintly. Then maybe there's still hope. Her hand slipped into his, her pulse faint but steady. Outside, the weapon began to crumble, drifting apart into golden dust that scattered across the stars. The last remnant of the alien king vanished into light. Later, aboard a human rescue ship, Jack stood at the viewport. Below him, Earth's blue surface glowed peaceful and alive. Beside it, a distant purple planet shimmered. Orleans, reborn. Elira, wrapped in a healing cloth, walked beside him. Two worlds, she said softly. Enemies for centuries, now breathing the same air. Jack smiled. Guess we made history. She turned to him. No, we saved it. Outside, the stars shone brighter, two worlds finally at peace. But far beyond their sight, in the cold void, a single fragment of golden code drifted, faint but alive, whispering quietly into the dark. The king will rise again.